Hello and good afternoon, good evening, and in some locations, well, good morning. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And folks, here's the thing. You always wake up as a podcaster and you go to your DMs. Like when I get up in the morning, brush myself up, I start making breakfast for me and Mrs. Boom, I go right to the phone. And normally, when you see something like 9 DMs, oh shit, something has happened. Well, that wasn't the case this morning. I had one DM and I was like, okay, nothing going on. And I had written the show and I was ready to rock and roll. And then, of course, we have two breaking news stories, massive breaking news stories that we're going to get into, folks. Get ready for the next 80 plus minutes where, man, we got a lot to get into. But you know what? We're not even going to beat around the bush. Hargi Chani, hello, sir. How are you doing? Acquisition talk? You showed up first. Oh, brother, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, doing fine. Yeah, I mean, like, this is really just potential for IP acquisitions, or even like, there's the potential of just like, sponsoring a game, right? They can just have, fund something that Ubisoft could do. But either way, there's some potential fun here. I'm waiting for the big announcements of an actual acquisition, but we'll see when that happens.
Now, being that we're still waiting for the case to be thrown out, it has not officially been thrown out by the FTC as of yet, right? Which is very odd. I just think they're just waiting. I don't know what they're waiting for. I would imagine that as soon as that is done, you're going to see that there's going to be big tech spending, and Microsoft's going to be stepping in the way of potentially another acquisition. What or who at this point, we don't know. But Que Asante, good. I know that you had a great weekend. It was the little one's birthday, so that was awesome. He got exactly what he wanted. But you know what, folks? When you put a lot of kids in a room, it's a powder keg for sickness. And unfortunately, the kids are sick. Thank you so much for being here, even though they're a little bit under the weather. Thanks. I appreciate that, brother.
Oh no, I'm happy to be here, man. It's a good time to be here, talk games, some interesting news afoot. Yeah, it's good times. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, listen, folks, let's just get right into it. Of course, now I have two stories in front of me, and the one we're going to open up with is, of course, the Ubisoft breaking news. Now, this was originally reported this afternoon by IGN.com. The author is the name is Vicky Blake, and Vicky wrote the title as such: Ubisoft shareholder plots protest outside of the Paris headquarters and accuses the company of failing to reveal discussions with Microsoft, EA, and others allegedly interested in acquiring some of their IPs. Now, I'm going to read verbatim from the article, folks, so bear with me. It says this: a minority shareholder in Ubisoft is attempting to organize a protest outside the company's Paris headquarters, accusing it of failing to disclose alleged discussions with Microsoft, EA, and other publishers reportedly interested in acquiring its franchises. Now, the shareholder has pointed out to a restricted article published by business investment platform Merger Market that alleged discussions between Microsoft, EA, and others are interested in acquiring IP from Ubisoft. Management did not inform public or the public about these steps either. Now, this is what they're claiming. Now, IGN does in fact have a Ubisoft presser, which of course was issued to them concerning the matters here. And I want to read that verbatim. And it says this is directly from Ubisoft, folks. As we mentioned during our Q3 sales, the review of various transformational strategies and capitalistic options are currently ongoing. The board has established an ad hoc independent committee to oversee this formal and competitive process so as to extract the best value from Ubisoft's current assets and franchises for all stakeholders. Ubisoft will inform the market in accordance when applicable, when it's applicable regulations moving forward. I'm going to go first to you, Hargi Chani. Look, again, this is not a full-on Microsoft or EA or others are going to acquire Ubisoft. Now, when I started reading about this through other publications, the words grossly mismanaged continue to come up in the story. And this is something that we've seen happen with Ubisoft over the last couple of years. They've made some pretty hefty investments for games that did not hit for them. The Star Wars game is a perfect example of that. That game went through many transitions during development, came out, it was broken. They wound up having to change the entire game through update after update. Did not sell well. We are now sitting in a second round of consoles with no Splinter Cell. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you consider how many before these two past generations were available. There were tons of Sam Fisher games, and last generation and this current generation, there has been none. Pretty incredible that someone as prominent as Sam Fisher doesn't have his own game. Now, there is rumors that they are working on a reboot of the original. How, has that?
I thought they announced it. Did they not?
I believe
Yeah.
they did announce it. So yeah, so it's more
Yeah.
than just rumors. Yeah, so they're working on it supposedly. Well, it's nowhere to be found, and now we're hearing rumors. So of course, I'm gonna pose this question to not only the panel, but of course the chat. Now they have a lot of IP, and more specifically, they have the Tom Clancy IPs, and that goes for Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, The Division. I might be missing one in there, but they have a lot of IP. I think that Assassin's Creed is one of those IP that doesn't go anywhere, because without Assassin's Creed, there really isn't a Ubisoft. So I would imagine that is going to stay. But I think everything else is up for grabs. Now, in the story, Hargeet, when I read it aloud, EA was named in one of those publishers that was interested or potentially interested of acquiring some IP. First, it was Microsoft, then it was EA, and then it was others. I'm going to be honest with you. I think, and again, this is not being a fanboy, folks. This is just reading the room. Microsoft is already in bed with them because of what happened with the CMA and having to sell the cloud rights to them. So I would imagine that if anyone is in line to buy some of these quote unquote IPs, it's going to be Microsoft. The question is for you and the chat is, what IPs do you think Microsoft would be interested in?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because looking at their IP list, it's not like there's anything. So look, they have The Crew, but Microsoft already owns like one of the best freaking racing games in the Forza series.
Yes.
I don't think they need it. And, like what would, I don't know, they could, but like what would be the point? As you said, Assassin's Creed is most likely off the table. I would think Prince of Persia is probably in the same category. If you look at some of the other things like Rayman, maybe, but like that seems like a really like unnecessary thing when they have,
instead of having made a Banjo game. So
they have Banjo, they have Conquer, they have Spyro, they have Crash.
Yeah.
And I think they're covered. What would they need with it? So I don't see that being a thing. Like, what else do they really like? Red Steel, like they have that. Like, who cares? Just Dance.
I mean, Just Dance is still
possible.
a popular IP.
Just
Dance possible.
It's money,
it's
sir.
like an
Just
annual
Dance
game,
money.
right? It's an annual game. So then the question is it something they'd want to part with? You also have to look at it from a Ubisoft perspective. What generates cash for them, right? So they're gonna kind of like. So you say the Tom Clancy's. Well, Rainbow Six is pretty popular. It still makes them money. I don't know where the Division is. It is still kind of getting content. So maybe it's still valid and continues to be useful to them. I don't know. I haven't really researched just how much money it makes. It may not be making anything. But the problem is, do you give parts of the Tom Clancy license over, or do you give the Tom Clancy license over? And that becomes kind of an interesting question. You could just say, I'm going to license it and say, I'm not going to acquire it, but I can license it for 10 years, 15 years, whatever, right? And then Microsoft can go make some stuff based on that, right? much like what Disney does with some of their IPs. It's like, hey, we will license out like Star Wars and let people, or Marvel, and let people make games. Oh, fine, you can do something like that. It's an interesting, like that would probably be the most interesting to Xbox, right? Is like the Tom Clancy series, because there's just games in that, like you mentioned, Splinter Cell. It has an association with Xbox, right? Even though it was everywhere eventually, right? But there's an association with Xbox, right? So Splinter Cell would be a great one for Microsoft to either just fund the game or buy it. But could they buy just that part? And would that be enough value? Would they not want the rest of it? So, and then you say, okay, well, that moneymaker then goes away with Rainbow Six. So I don't know. It's a very tough thing to look at. You say Far Cry. Okay, that's a possibility. Maybe they're like, we're good with that one. And maybe that's something that could transition to an Xbox. And you say EA, maybe they can't buy anything. I think they can muster up enough depending on how much it costs. So it might be a value. There's potential, I guess, in some of these. Brothers in Arms, Call of Juarez. I don't know how much of these matter. You'd be bringing them back. Potentially, it might be something of value. And then you have to see, are they getting the teams that make the game, or are they just buying the IP?
Theory. Yeah.
And then are they going to have to find somebody to make that? Is it something interesting to their own studios? Right. So there's a lot of those kind of things that go into it. They have enough IP of their own at this point. Do they really need to go invest in this? Look, to me, if you could get all of Tom Clancy, then fair. That would be a very cool thing to get, right? Because now you get all the Tom Clancy stuff into Game Pass. That would be something of value. Outside of that, you just have to question, is it of value enough to somebody like Xbox? Xbox is now the biggest game publisher, right? It has to be something that's going to be useful enough for them that they don't already cover. And a lot of the stuff that they have in the Tom Clancy world, Xbox kind of has an answer to, right? And so you could say, okay, maybe they don't have like a 1-to-1, but Splinter Cell, you've got Joanna Dark coming, right? And that's a stealth type game. Maybe there's other ones you could look at they have in the stealth arena, right? So it's not like they don't have like answers to these things. It's just a well-recognized name. Tom Clancy's a well-recognized name. It would be good to have that, right? So there isn't really, I think, look, they tried to create something out of Tom Clancy to be a COD killer. Guess what Microsoft already has? COD. They don't need to have a COD killer. They own COD, right? And this is just like the world they're in now. They have such premier IP. It becomes tough. So I think that would be the only one that makes sense to me. Actually, the one that would be of value to them is Assassin's Creed. That's the thing they would like to have, right? A massive third-person adventure game. That's the thing that they would love to have more of. But I don't know that that's available, right? You could say maybe Prince of Persia would be a good potential other option if that's available, because that's in that same vein, and it's kind of been absent for a while, right? So that's where my head's at. Just Dance is actually kind of an interesting one. I just don't know if they're going to give it up, because again, it's an annualized game, which is great for Game Pass. You want annualized games because that's perfect, because now you have something that just comes in every year, just like COD, and it gives you that value immediately, right? So, but it's a moneymaker, and I don't know that they want to give it up. If they get it, they'd probably want to get the studio that makes it, right? They'd want to get the whole bloody thing, right? Because that way they just can say, keep making what you're making and just keep putting in Game Pass. So that might be something of value. We always think about the things that we might like, but it's like they have to look at the breadth of gaming and say, what do we not have? And that is one that you could say kind of nice to have, right? Have something like that in your catalog. That always, you want the kids games, they've got some of those. You want this kind of game. It just attracts a certain customer, and it's good to have that in Game Pass. That might be one that's there. I don't know if Ubisoft wants to give it up, but again, if you're going to try to sell something, there's got to be value loss on their side, right? So it's just the way it is, right? They're going to get money for a value that somebody else is going to get. It's just, so it's an interesting one. If it wasn't off the table, I'd say Assassin's Creed is the one that you want to get.
Of course.
I think Just Dance is a very viable option. I think that's a very viable option. And then there's Prince of Persia. I think that might be good. But if they can get the Tom Clancy license, wow. That would be kind of cool.
It's very interesting because, again, they do own a lot of IP. Now, look, there is something to be said about owning. Now, look, let's be clear here. When we say own, I know I saw a lot of exclusive, folks. Here's the thing.
Oh, somebody mentioned one in the chat that I forgot about because they've stopped making it. Watch Dogs.
Yes,
that actually is an interesting one. They said they're done. They're done with it.
They stole mine. That one was mine. Keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Now, which game is that?
Watch
Dog.
Dogs.
Oh,
they've said they're done with it.
Goldmine.
They're done with it. And it's like, well, okay, if you're done with it, maybe somebody else wants to take a stab at it.
I mean, I forgot about that IP because the second one is my favorite in the series. Third one was actually pretty good, where you kept, changing your person. Right? You could be like an old lady, which was great.
Legion, really good.
That was pretty good. It was decent.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I played enough of it to enjoy it. But the second one with Marcus and the rest of that crew was absolutely phenomenal. I actually got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements on that game. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is one of those stories that we don't know where it's going to go. The cat's out of the bag because obviously this investor kind of is, and he's on his own, right? He's a minority shareholder, not somebody sitting at the table, and he's trying to make us think, listen, cat's out of the bag. They're talking to Microsoft, they're talking to EA, and others. Who those others
IGN
are?
put this up, so there's got to be some substantial enough. This is real media, right? So
yes,
it's got to be a substantial enough, story that they've validated that. Yep, there's some truth to this. So,
well, what's interesting, and I just want to add some context to that before we bring in Keasante. In the story, it goes on to say that back in October, Bloomberg reported that Ubisoft's founding, how do you say the family's name? Is Guillemot?
Guillemot.
Guillemot. Yes, Guillemot. That's how I say it.
It only works when my finger goes like this together. Guillemot.
The Guillemot family and shareholder Tencent were in discussions to take the company private following a number of high-profile flops, game cancellations, and the collapse of the company's share price. At the time, the talks were merely exploratory, and Ubisoft told IGN it would inform the market if and when it was appropriate. Now, it does go on to say, and I want to stress this, folks. I don't think a lot of people remember what's been going on with them. According to the article, it says for several years now, Ubisoft has seemed to be in a strange, slow, downward spiral with a number of high-profile flops, layoffs, studio closures, game cancellations, and one delay after another. And that is really, that kind of sums up what's going on with Ubisoft. I mean, just look what happened with the newest Assassin's Creed. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a great game. Some people got codes and are playing it right now. I did not get a code, but that's also, I didn't request for one. I don't want to review that game. I just want to enjoy it. They're in Japan, folks. It's my dream come true, so I want to enjoy it as a gamer, which is why I didn't request to review it. But here's the thing. They have a lot of problems, and they are bleeding money, Keasante. There's no doubt about it. It's clear as day that it's a lot of mismanagement. First of all, let's get your thoughts on the report. And obviously, besides Watch Dogs, do you have any other ones that you were hoping they would bring home?
So this is a long time coming, right? To me, Ubisoft is one of the greats, the old greats. I actually have a little bit of a history with Ubisoft. I actually got to see some of their studios a long time ago in Montreal. Like, I got a chance to tour. A buddy of mine worked there. A buddy of mine, I have some friends that have worked there in the past, so I know some stuff about it. So take everything I'm saying with that grain of salt. I have some history with them. So I have friends who told me things in the background. But I too have loved, like, one of my old favorite games that I recall that was a Ubisoft game that I learned, what are studios and what are publishers and why do I care? Rayman was so different when it first came out. I remember playing it. I remember playing it on something like this that was not an Xbox controller. It was like the generic Grievous generic pad with the thumbstick on it back in the day. You know what I mean? Rayman. It was a brilliant platformer. Before that, only Mario was platformer, right? If you weren't Mario, you didn't exist. But Rayman carved its own niche, and for a long time, Ubisoft has been doing very interesting and good work. But yeah, the owners, the Guillemot family are a bunch of not so good people. I'll just put it that way. They have been allowing a lot of bad behavior to fester.
Can we say
their
boobs?
ranks. Yeah, boobs, enablers. They just don't deserve to basically hold the lineage of Ubisoft. What do you call it? Bonus points for those who know what UB means. Ubiquitous Software is their name, which is a very weird name. But needless to say, as you guys were chatting, as Hargeet was chatting, and I completely agree with this assessment as to like where Microsoft specifically, where their need would be here. I was kind of looking through it. I was like, hey, let me use, because we have these robots, these digital robots that can do some wonderful aggregating for us. let me use these robots to aggregate the amount of IPs that Ubisoft owns. And yeah, to your point, they have like some very stellar IPs that we all know and love. And I even asked the robot to add some pricing or value, estimated value based on sales, DLC, all of that, right? To extrapolate and give estimated value of these IPs. So can you imagine how much Assassin's Creed is valued right now? This is all estimated, of course, between $800 million to $1 billion.
Wow.
That is between $800 million to $1 billion IP. And this is every piece of that franchise, all the games, everything that has come together to make up that Assassin's Creed franchise. This seconded, you have the Far Cry franchise. You have now to Hargeet's point, the Tom Clancy franchise. The reason why that is so lucrative is because combined, it's about $600 million in value, and they own that IP, that naming right in perpetuity. So for forever and a day, they can just put Tom Clancy's whatever on any box they want, right? So it is very interesting that a lot of our great IPs, and by the way, Hargeet, Just Dance, estimated value between $200 and $250 million dollars.
Wow.
Worth it.
Yes.
Worth it.
Absolutely. $250 million every year. It's just spitting out more. Watch Dogs between $150 and $200 million.
Holy
the crew between yes.
Wow.
The crew between 100 million and 150. The problem with Ubisoft is it's not that they don't have killer high level bringing money home IPs. It's just it costs them so much to make it, so much overhead, so much like employees and marketing and this, and they cannot sustain themselves unless every franchise is $1 billion IP, and they can't all be $1 billion IPs, right? You can't tell me Watch Dogs, estimated at $150 to $200 million, is a bad IP and a failure, so it should get thrown out with the bathwater. That is a great IP with good games that could potentially grow if you keep, adding more installments into it. You know what I mean? They just, because they are so huge and have such a problem with management, and optimizing their spend and all of that, it makes every single IP that potentially is valuable to them have to clear such a high bar that none of these IPs will ever reach that. You know what I'm saying? Even their highest IP in the form of Assassin's Creed, being $1 billion franchise, is still not enough to save their ass at this point, as we see. You know what I'm saying? It is unfortunate, but there's a lot of good stuff in their IPs. Like, do you know that the Settlers IPs are 20 million to 30 million in value? Just those IPs alone.
Wow.
Like, all of their IPs are worth a substantial amount of money. It's just a problem of they need to slim themselves down enough to be able to make benefit of the money that's coming in, and that's where they are right now. Avatar is worth between $75 to $100 million right now. That game they made between the two games, right? They own the Myst IP. Obviously, Microsoft could buy the Myst IP. What's the service game that they have that's actually pretty good? also about $50 million it's worth. Rocksmith, the Guitar Hero, but it's teaching you to play guitar thing. Those are some service things that I suspect Microsoft could potentially get their hands on and do something interesting with. But it's just unfortunate, man. Like it'll be a sad day when these guys go down, because I suspect it's only inevitable at this point, because I feel like they're one of the last great, creative houses that used to walk that thin line of creativity and finance. Right, the rest of them just kind of gave up the ghost. These were the last holdouts, but what are you going to do? Yeah. And unfortunately, for those who think Microsoft will swoop in and buy them, they are not able to do so. So right. Unless some new wallet shows up, we shall see where all of this goes.
Well, again, this is just speculation on my part. We're going to get to the super chats and the gifted memberships, because we got quite a few of them. So I want to get to those in a second before we move on to the second topic. Now, the second topic, I have some caveat, but thanks to a couple of panel members, members of the chat, Jez Corden of Windows Central literally 9 minutes ago just dropped a new article. We have a lot to get into regarding this, a ROG Ally Asus Xbox thing that's happening. Cat's out of the bag. I cannot wait to see what this thing looks like. Supposedly it does not look like a ROG Ally. And again, in the story that Jez wrote just, I think, 2 days ago, he literally said in his write-up that this thing, I'm sure he's seen it, unmistakably looks like an Xbox. Which, what does that mean? I literally have no idea, but we're going to get into it, because obviously we're going to read verbatim the story that literally just dropped minutes ago. But this is one of those situations where before the company goes under, like you were saying, Kay Asante, and very similar to what Hargeet was saying about just the way that the IPs have been managed, right? I think they're going to try and get rid of some. Now, they had put out a statement, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago before this news broke, that they were going to, quote unquote, tighten the belt on development on certain IPs. They're going to go all in on Assassin's Creed. That's a big moneymaker for them. I would imagine that's going to continue. Hargeet believes that Rainbow Six is another huge moneymaker for them. They're going to obviously continue development on that. What's a third or fourth? I honestly don't know. But they have been working on for years now, the Division stuff in regards to DLCs. Now, I don't know if there is multiple DLCs still planned. There is one that was supposed to come out last year. It did not. It's supposed to be launched soon. Does that mean that they're still working on 3? Do they consider the Division a valuable franchise? I don't know. There was originally a movie.
Real quick though, Boom, like not to interject, but if there is a publisher that Microsoft, speaking of Microsoft, would want to kind of pick through their IPs, it is Ubisoft, right?
Yeah, I agree.
They are the ones that have turned their duds into like Black Hole Game Gold. They've done that at least twice or 3 times now with IPs. Yeah. We may not be playing For Honor every day, but I bet you if you go to For Honor right now and try to find a game, it's a thriving community to this day. And you can say that about every other IP that they have that's Black Hole and says Tom Clancy Presents on it. They've been able to successfully do that, which seems like Microsoft is about that, right? That's what they want. They want more and more of those Black Hole games. So maybe they pick up one on the cheap.
I mean, you don't know. I mean, they do have. Steep is another one, right? That could be a Black Hole game for them, because obviously it's a snowboard game. They've been working on that for years. They've been supporting that for years.
It's fun too. It's a fun game.
It is a lot of fun. Steep is a lot of fun. Far Cry. Now, listen. Microsoft owns a lot of developers that know how to make first-person shooters. They've kind of gone away from Far Cry a bit. Again, that was pinnacle during the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One and PS3, Xbox, PS4 days. Pinnacle in their development, and all of their games always featured a real scumbag bad guy that made the game what it was. I mean, that's what we all tuned in for. That's another franchise I'd like to see. Look, I don't know what's going to happen with this, folks. This is going to be a story that I would imagine is going to continue to evolve over the course of the next couple of weeks, even maybe the next couple of months. But if Microsoft does buy something, it's going to be breaking news, whatever day it happens, and we're certainly going to cover it here. But we got to get into this handheld because this is very exciting. Project Keenan is going to happen this year. There are many people in the community that believe that it is going to be shown off at GDC. It makes perfect sense. Obviously, that's the game developer conference that is happening. Starts next Monday, goes all the way through Friday. They're going to show something. Interestingly enough, they politely let us know they were going to be there a couple of weeks ago when they said, yeah, we're going to be bringing this is an Xbox and what we're going to be doing with that here. So listen, before we get to that story, let me just catch up on the super chats. Been quite a few of them. Torino Johnson drops a very generous $2 super chat. And Torino goes on to say, the Japanese love the dance arcade games.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a big part of what goes on with Ubisoft with this. And I'm sure that it does very well in Japan. There's just no doubt about it. And again, if you're trying to march into Japan and you need something to go into Xbox Game Pass for this handheld that's coming out, that's going to be very PC based, but also very Xbox based, and you're going to sell it in Japan, you're going to sell it in Korea, you're going to potentially sell it in China. This is a game to have on it. Now, would a Dance Dance Revolution actually work on a handheld? I don't necessarily know, but I'm sure they could find a way.
Oh, I mean, Just Dance is on a mobile all
I
the
said
time.
Dance Dance Revolution. That's
time.
Konami. I'm sorry, it's Just Dance.
No, they've had a mobile version of Just Dance forever.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, they have mobile for that thing. Also, I'm telling you, that thing prints money. We just don't pay attention.
See, there you go. I didn't even know there was a mobile version. See, that's what do I know? There you go. Thank you so much for that. So, Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $5 super chat, and Gamer by Choice goes on to say this: Xbox could build a Tom Clancy universe, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, and Division, where you can choose what group you send to a map. Bro,
that'd be
are you
things,
kidding me?
right?
This is
yep.
That is $1 million idea. Game by Choice. I would freaking love that. Could you? That would be something. We have Ryan in the chat who drops a very generous $2 super chat. And Ryan says, FYI, Jez put out a new article 5 minutes ago regarding the handheld. Brother, thank you so much for that, Ryan. I have that story in front of me, and we're gonna read it verbatim in a moment. Once again, Eris_EMS has gifted folks 10 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. My God, thank you, kind sir, for that. I definitely appreciate it, and he deserves that. That is anyone that donates, whether it's $1 or you gift 10 Double Barrel Gaming memberships like Eris has just done. We're incredibly grateful for it, folks. Again, this money that we get isn't just tucked away and forgotten about. We obviously we've been doing for years big giveaways, and we're going to continue that trend. And we can't do any of that unless we do get this kind of support, and which is why we pour so much of it back into the channel and also to the community. So thank you, Eris. We super appreciate the generosity. Not to be outdone, JD Gamer drops a very generous $20 super chat. And JD goes on to say, panel, what if the reason that Microsoft is looking to buy IP is because they're barred from buying Ubi itself, and they don't want ABK streaming rights ending up at PlayStation? That's possible. You never know. And this is just a way to infuse cash into Ubi to keep them solvent. That's a very interesting theory. Any rebuttal, gentlemen, for that? Or
I think it's an interesting theory. There's more to it. In the case when Ubi falls, God forbid, if Ubi falls, it doesn't become, oh well, you're screwed now, Microsoft. They then have to go under this on the spree of finding another suitor, right? It's not like, oh, they're screwed. It ends up at PlayStation. They have no choice in the matter. No, they have every choice in the matter. They can negotiate and keep talking and have that.
Yeah.
They have to sell it, but they get to tell you who they sell it to, as long as somebody.
So, yeah. You know why the CMA hates these kind of deals, right? They don't want to do anything where you have this third party. Because you never know what happens to that third party.
That's right.
And now they have to deal with that crap because it's still going to go through the CMA, right? Anything that happens to Ubisoft is going to go through the CMA, and they're going to say, now we got Microsoft tied up in this. We don't want to deal with our agreement with them. And so now what? So PlayStation buying them would be a very challenging thing because the CMA is going to balk all over it and say, wait a minute, no, what is going on here? And then, so now, like you were saying, Asante, they'd have to find yet somebody else to take over the rights. However, they've already assigned rights in perpetuity for the games that have already come out that Ubisoft now has in perpetuity for cloud rights. So how the heck do you now abridge that and say, oh, we have to change that? They would have to sell those. It becomes such a nightmare. This is why the CMA hates doing these kind of deals. This is why the CMA hates doing these kind of deals, right? So I don't blame them for that, but this is why it becomes a bit. So I think it would be very challenging for another platform to come in and try to take this because of that agreement with Microsoft. The CMA will just be like, oh, come on, no. We don't want to deal with this crap. So just that's my thought on it. This is why they hate doing it.
Well, it makes perfect sense when you break it down like that. We have Pascal Greco. Pascal, thank you so much for being here. Super appreciate the generosity. He drops a very generous $2 super chat. And he goes on to say, I hope Ubisoft IPs don't go down with the ship. Now, I would imagine if it's going to, I mean, that definitely they're going to make money one way or another, whether it's a fire sale or they're trying to move it right now.
Somebody will buy it.
Somebody's going to buy it. Now, I think everyone's going to be reaching for the pot to try and take what they can. I think Microsoft is upfront. They already. I think
Tencent is the
Tencent's another big one here. For sure. Yeah,
Tencent's the front runner. Outside of that, it probably ends up being either like Take-Two or a total third party, right? Like remember Comcast wanted to buy EA. They could easily afford these guys, right? So if they still want to do something in that realm, this could be a potential option for them. We could have somebody in Japan, somebody like Konami says, hey, we want to really get back into gaming. Let's take the shot and let's go buy Ubisoft.
Yeah.
That's a viable thing. They have the cash. They could do it, right? So you never know. It could be any Capcom, right? It's like let's expand more. You never know. Somebody else could come in.
Luke Lord, the chat says Apple. Oh, boy.
You know what? I mean, they have the money.
It's not just the money. Remember, you have to have know-how how to make this work.
That they don't know how to do.
This is why people keep saying Apple, and I'm like, dude, Apple is so like reticent to go do something. They have hundreds of billions of dollars in the bank. Why aren't they acquiring stuff? You know why they don't acquire stuff? They don't want to tackle anything that doesn't automatically make them money.
Yes.
Ubisoft's in trouble. They're not going to, who's going to want to take on that headache? It needs to be somebody who understands gaming and can turn it around.
Yeah.
So you need to have somebody who brings that knowledge. That's not Apple.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, they just took a bath on their VR headset that was $5,000. So
yeah, that was homegrown. What was it? The Vision? Is that what they call it? The Vision?
Is that what Vision Pro? Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there you go. Vision Pro. Lastly, Will the Broke Boy Insider, who's going to be a guest with me and C Money tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the big story there, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the Oblivion rumor now has months attached to it when Bethesda might, in fact, unveil it for a June release, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into all of that. Who broke that story and what are the new particulars of the facts? But that's tomorrow. Will has once again gifted one Double Barrel Gaming membership. Brother, thank you so much, Will. We super appreciate the generosity. Gentlemen, chat. Let's get into this story that was posted now 17 minutes ago by Jez Corden of WindowsCentral.com. And it says Xbox Project Keenan gaming handheld, price, compatibility, launch window, and everything we know so far. And it goes on to say this, gentlemen, Microsoft is working on a partner gaming handheld with Asus set to launch later this year. Project Keenan is part of a wider effort at Microsoft to engage OEMs on Xbox-style gaming hardware. And Jez goes on to say, I exclusively revealed Xbox's Project Keenan earlier this week, detailing the first salvo of Microsoft's bold new hardware direction for its gaming platform, but you want more details, right? Well, he has it for us right here. Keenan, as not Keenan, as I previously wrote, Kershaw Warren.
It's Kenan.
It's Kenan. Is an OEM-built PC gaming handheld at its core akin to the Asus ROG Ally or Lenovo Legion Go, and is set to launch later this year. Providing nothing goes awry, Microsoft is working closely with OEMs on making Windows more friendly for dedicated PC gaming devices like this. What's interesting is it goes on to say, since I've been getting tons of questions about Kenan, I've put together this facts to answer some of the major questions I've received from all of you and read in the comments here on Windows Central. And this is what he has to say. Let me see if I can pull some of them up. It says, let's see, what does he have here? According to our trusted source, Kenan will blend Asus styling with updated design conventions for a more typical of an Xbox-style device with more prominent grips and a dedicated Xbox Guide style button. It is unclear whether Kenan will sit alongside any of the prospective the Asus ROG Ally 2 as a separate SKU, but they don't know if that is currently going to happen. In news which may not shock you, it's Asus that have been tipped to build Xbox's Project Kenan device. We can corroborate this report from The Verge's Tom Warren that Project Kenan is indeed from Asus and will essentially feel somewhat familiar to the current ROG Ally and its owners. I'm going first here to Kay Asante because Kay has a lot to say about this. Look, I'm going to say this. I don't know. I have a ROG Ally, right? You know that because you helped me set it up. And it's a great console. It's a great handheld, but it's more PC than I was expecting and want. When I turn on my Switch, Kay, I press a button, I press the A button 3 times, and I'm back at the home screen. No fuss, no muss, no coconuts, right? Well, this is going to be a ROG Ally, but this is also apparently going to run like an Xbox handheld. Now, I don't know how different this is going to be to the rumored 2027 Microsoft handheld, but from what we understand in the story that was originally reported by Jez Corden, not only does this console unmistakably look like an Xbox, but this is just seeding the ground so they can grow their own handheld to release in a couple of years. What do you think about the information that was just provided by Jez?
So, okay, let's handle it in 2 ways. I'll be messy for just a moment, and then we'll get to the business at hand.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We have been having these conversations for years now, literally years. We are on GCP episode almost 200. We've been having these conversations for years, but I won't even go that far back. I'll just go ahead and put in the chat right now an article that I wrote for Xbox Era on July 29th, 2024, where I said, what? There may be some OEMs like old Asus who will be tapped to do what? To create a handheld that will be considered an Xbox. So there you go. Negro Damas, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on. All right, let's just keep it moving. Anyway, this hardware is interesting, but to me, the ball game is not the hardware. To me, the ball game, is, like you say, is the software. And right now, it looks like it's a little bit of a stepping stone to its final form, right? For my DBZs out there, this is not Frieza's final form. It's going to turn into something else. But what you see here may be interesting, right? Like, and when we finally saw it unveiled, and we finally heard the rumors, and people finally, tore the veil off of it. The chat is enjoying my ridiculousness. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Forgive me. When we finally saw that, there were questions as to what it will look like, right? Because to Jez's point, and I kind of have had some inklings of some of these things for a while now. Duh, it is what it is. I appreciate him for dropping it. What we're not sure of is what the final form will look like. What we do know is this middle ground will have actual PC code, right? So that whole Windows Anywhere initiative looks like it's being leveraged a lot here, right? So your games that are on Xbox are now giving you dual entitlement to the same games on your Windows PC store, right? So at least that's how you're getting most of your library in that way today. Now, what the UI will look like, that's where I am super, super interested, right? I have said it in DMs, I've said it on Discord chats, I will say it in public. I know this thing is an x86 device, like any other x86 device. Your Steam Deck is an x86 device. All the third-party handheld devices, here's one of mine, x86 device. They're just regular Windows desktop, laptop, regular devices made in form factors to be able to look cool when you're gaming, like comfortable in the gaming context, right? They're all shells, and what matters is the software, right? But if the first time the consumer sees these things, it still has Windows 11 or looks like Windows 11 on it, it will be the biggest facepalm moment. I will lose it.
Okay, I mean that's a fair point, because that's what I'm concerned about, right? Like I want to buy
literally day one when it comes out, when you see it, it needs to have an Xbox UI.
Okay,
and it can be a standard Windows device, right? Play Windows games, but still boot you into a UI that looks nice and shiny and pretty, that BoomStick can boot up, not feel intimidated by, and just scroll around with his controller. Right.
Now, do you think that is what's going to happen?
So I wasn't sure before. Now so before it was 50-50, or you know what? No, I'll be actually, let's be real about it. Before it was 60-40 the wrong way. Now it's 60-40 the positive way.
Okay.
Meaning it's seeming like, yes, that's what's happening here. It may not be what I want, which is that full-fledged UI that incorporates all the versions of the game and you can just kind of play it one-stop shop. It may not be that. It may just be a standard Windows game under the covers, but in the front, it just has a nice UI, a shell that is not desktop. The shell is possibly Xbox UI, right? But that for now is a pretty good solution to get people to that eventual destination. So for me, I think that's really, really cool. Now, as far as what the hardware will look like, we'll move on from that. I can neither confirm nor deny what the hardware will run. That's easy to see. Look around the community. Look around. The hardware is already out there anyway. It will be a variant of an AMD processor, just like all the other variants are right now. Even this thing in here runs a variant of that AMD hardware, right? So they're all kind of walking lockstep in the same direction. Right. So while it's cool and the hardware will be cool and I expect great optimizations, hopefully the battery will be a monster and good, just like Asus put their foot down the last time. It'll be good too. For me, the exciting part of it, and that may also answer BT Mavericks in the chat. I saw you have a super chat in there. I may answer that question for you right now. For me, the exciting part about it is the software. And yes, I do think that when that software is available on those devices, you may be able to find yourself being able to download it and install it on your own devices, like this device here, or your ROG Ally X or the OG Ally, and make use of that software. And as more and more people jump in, more and more data is provided to them, and they're able to, make that UI better and better and better. That's the hope of it. So hopefully sooner rather than later, I'm expecting to see them say, hey guys, you want to be part of the beta program? Sign this thing and install it and start testing it out, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like. I honestly think it will be cool. I mean, will it be for me specifically? Probably not. It'll probably be middle of the road, and I want something a bit more high end. Okay. But this is them walking the walk, and I hope it's great. I hope it's great.
I have a thought, because if you guys remember, Jason Ronald was interviewed earlier this year, where he had confirmed that this quote unquote unified UI was coming this year. Like he literally told us that what they've been working on to make the one UI to rule them all is coming this year. Now, he didn't specifically say when, he didn't specifically say on what. Now, we all originally thought that it was going to be a downloadable beta for this thing, where if a person like me who's had the first ROG Ally, not the X, but the first one, I would be able to download this if I signed up for the beta. But if I'm kind of, and again, this is not being a fanboy, this is more like wishing upon a star. This is a new piece of tech that they are dual releasing. It is a combined joint between Asus and Xbox. If I was a gambling kind of a dude, and I'm really not, I like my money in my pocket, which is why I don't gamble. I would imagine that this, just based on some things that were said by Jason Ronald earlier this year, some of the stuff we've heard in the background regarding this uniformed UI, and now this new device that is going to be potentially unveiled at GDC, does it make sense, Hargeet Chani, that they would have this device ready? It is unmistakably an Xbox, thanks to Jez Corden's original story. And this UI is going to potentially be what powers up this thing. It's going to be the standout on what makes people like me, who already own a ROG Ally, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. I press a button and an Xbox screen comes up. I go to a dash. I play a game. I'm good. What are your thoughts on that, man? Because it makes a lot of sense to me, but I'm also a fanboy.
Well, so KSAT is kind of giving you most of what's there. Here's the thing that happens though, right? Like, so when you boot up your Xbox, there's a very minimal BIOS, right? It takes it like a couple of seconds and it brings up the Xbox logo and you're up into your interface, right? If you want to do that, you're going to have to skimp on a lot of things, right? So they're going to make a purpose-built device and say this is going to boot up much like a Series X. Within like 5 seconds, you're at your dash, right? Something in that range. You can't necessarily do that very easily on a PC because it's got to be universally good for everything, right? But they could work with it, right? So even the Asus ROG Ally, it doesn't take too long in the BIOS, comes up pretty fast, but it boots up into Windows, normal, you get the desktop. This is going to be tailored, right? So it's going to boot up. It's going to have like kind of the kind of default Xboxy UI come up as the first thing. That would be the way to do it, right? So you wouldn't ever see a Windows desktop. Now, you might be able to go back to a desktop. That's a possibility. But they may just gimp it to the point where it's like, nope, you just get the controller interface. We will vet the things that are workable from the Steam library, the Epic library, the whatever else library, and make it available to you, right? So that there's no potential where you have to go click on something with the mouse, right? There's no weird crap like that. We'll have to see what they do, right? What the implementation looks like. Could you backport that to something you already own? I think so, right? But it won't be seamless. It's not going to be the same thing as I boot up this device. It looks like my Series X. It just boots up. You get the Xbox logo and you're into the Xbox dashboard, right? Because you're going to have to tailor it yourself. So you could bring up the UI yourself. Now, you could go and do some configuration yourself and say, hey, I want to take away Explorer as my default. Explorer, by the way, is the default Windows shell that you get when you boot up, right? So you can say, I don't want that. I want this new thing. There probably is going to be a way to hack it and make that happen. So eventually, I'm sure somebody will have a instruction list here. Do this. And
I suspect that's how it comes by default, though. I suspect that by default, and real quick, all of this that you're describing is not hypothetical. You can do this if you know what you're doing today to Windows 11, right? You can download Tiny 11, right? Which is less than a gig, and then you can replace the Windows shell with, say, Steam shell. And now when you boot it up, it boots in 2 seconds and it boots right into Steam. You can do that. What we're describing here is they would then strip Windows of all the craft, right? And just make sure the Xbox shell boots by default instead of desktop shell.
So that would be Canon, right? And that's why you want the device, right? The device is just going to do that by default. It's going to come with that custom image. That's the way it is. If you want to backport it, though, to something you already have, maybe you have a desktop, maybe you have a current ROG Ally, fair enough. I think that's where you can. I'm so sure somebody will come up with the instructions. Here's what you got to do, right? Once you update to that version. When will that be available to us? I don't know, right? So don't assume that that's immediate, right? There might be like a next major version of Windows 11. Maybe it's a Windows 12, whatever it is. At some point, that will come, right? And then we should be able to use it. It may be the same time. It may not be. I just want to be clear that might be a little bit of a time gap, right? Because this is a custom OEM device that they're working, right? So, and it might be little issues that they want to iron out before they give it to general mass, right? Like, so it might be something that takes a little bit, but I think you will eventually get it. And then you can then go ahead and say, hey, I want to default it and make it look the same. Here are the instructions to go make that happen, right? So we'll see. The problem with that, though, is the update process. And I don't know how well that's going to get tailored to older devices, right? So in this case, they know the device. This is why it's convenient, right? They know the device. They're going to have the standard update process, very likely the way you do it with your current Series X, where you don't care. It just says there's an update available, right? And it will update it in the background, do all the device drivers and all that junk that you don't care about, but it just gives you a nice little update progress bar, reboots, and you're up to date, right? So you don't worry about what the heck's being updated. It's all done in the background. If you have a ROG Ally, you know what I mean, because it's not like that. You have 20 different updates. It tries
like
to
3 different places that it does this.
That you have to go update this yourself, and then Windows updates it this itself, and so it's very different, right? And so that seamlessness will most likely not be available on older devices, okay? Because then they would have to go vet all that. I don't think they're going to do that. That's why you want the partner device. That's why you want the OEM device, because now it will be a part of the standard update process. You won't see it. It doesn't matter. It gets done. For those who have a Surface, you know what I mean. I don't worry about getting this driver, that. It just does it. Windows Update just does it for me.
Yeah.
It's automatic. I don't care. I just hit update. It does it. It's all done for me. That's what you want, right? And that's where you get the partner device. The other thing that's interesting here is he's mentioning that you won't be able to play your Xbox library. I don't know that they're ready. So that might be, you have to wait for the next gen Xbox to come out. That's when they'll be ready for that. There's going to be more security needed. It's not just based. So there are security measures like hardware chips built into the Xbox that they will need to do. And they can do that with partner devices. Not a big deal, right? But they need to get there. And so once they have that, I think that's when you're going to be able to say, hey, this is really an Xbox, right? When they get to the next gen, this is really an Xbox, which allows them to legally bring forward from backwards compat, right? That's going to be the thing. And there you'll get your life. So this is going to be a little bit of a journey, right? So this device may have that forward capability. It may not, right? But it'll be part of that journey. And then at some point, I think we're looking at 2027 now, right? That's kind of been rumored to be
pretty
confirmed.
much. Yeah.
2027.
Rumored to be confirmed. Yes.
Yeah, rumored to be confirmed. These are all the bullshits of like rumors, right? We don't know, but this is kind of where we are. 2027.
The known unknowns.
The known unknowns. 2027 is the next gen. That's when you're going to see this like real merger of the two, right? That like I've been predicting the same thing for years. Like it's just the obvious next step is you're going to do this, right? And so this is what has to happen. Yeah. So it's happening. This is great. I think this is awesome news from a gaming perspective, because now you're not locked to a device from one platform. You can get whatever you want, and now you have competition too. You can get a Steam OS device. You can like build your own. You can like get this Xbox. This is cool. This is where innovation is going to get more and more interesting, because now they have to compete with each other. So you're going to have some interesting stuff happen, right? So this is kind of cool. We'll see how this journey goes. I like where they're going. Maybe there's going to be people out there who don't like it. I think it's awesome that it's more open. Open platforms generally tend to have more competitors come into the market and give you more options, more breadth of potential capabilities, right? And so if you have two big OSs not competing, right, a Linux-based Steam OS and a Windows-based, whatever they're going to call this, Canon, this is going to be cool too, because they're going to fight back and forth and give us new features. That's going to be awesome. So
Alvin in the chat is saying that although he appreciates the speeds and feeds talk that we've been providing, it doesn't speak to a lot of that plug and play that he's hoping this will be. Now, I know you and I
It won't be
agree
yet.
that that's not Frieza's final form, like we
It's
talked
not
about.
exactly.
But
You're gonna have to wait till
in the
2027.
transitional period, right? That UI may do a lot of that work to make it feel more
Yeah.
like a handheld.
UI,
Yeah.
exactly, more unified, right? So will it be plug and play like your Xbox? Oh, brace yourself, ladies and gentlemen. That's not going down. It's just not. Come on, it's just not.
But they
right?
could get it
But
close, though.
it'll be
It's a
much
step in that
closer.
journey.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's in that
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
2027 though, that's when it's going to be
Yeah.
hopefully like fully where it needs to be, because ultimately
Yep.
we all agree what we want is the simplicity of the
Yes,
Xbox
yep, right here.
console, right? But
Yeah.
hey, have that library of Windows, right? Which they own
Mhm,
both,
mhm.
and they're just going to unify the platforms a bit, and that's what they're looking to do. So we will get there hopefully, and it should be like the next Xbox, whatever it is, next gen, will bring your catalog. It will be impossibly stupid if they didn't bring your catalog with you. That would be terrible.
Last thing,
They
though.
have to make it happen.
Last thing, though, I will quickly say, like, for those who are like, "Oh, the hardware is not exciting." Yes, I love this kind of hardware. It's hardware. It's high end
Yep.
stuff. The chips there will be in this new hardware will be so far better optimized for handheld use, because they're finally taking this stuff seriously, that you won't need this level of brute forcing to get so much out of it. So maybe you find it at a nice, inviting price point that's not over $1,000, but still has a lot more in the tank, a la the Steam Deck.
So
You will find it hitting above its weight because they're using a lot of the new AMD technologies, the Strix Point tech. Like, there may be some benefits there. So, even if you see the hardware and you're like, "Oh, it's not exciting," let's hold off and see. It might be better than you think.
Well,
to add to that,
Okay.
Asante, in the article, they're saying very much grain of salt, right? But the potential pricing is 500 and 600.
Yeah, we're gonna break that down
within that realm.
Yeah,
which is very interesting. Again, we have two additional points of contention that I want to read aloud, and we'll go back to first Hargeet, and then we'll back end it with Kay. This is what it says. Now, again, the article is very beefy, and of course, because we love Jez Corden, I will include a link to both of his articles in the show notes when this goes up on video on demand and the videos I'm going to make. So if you want to read it for yourself, you can do so. This is what it says here. For those who were hoping Kenan would play Xbox games, I'm sorry to report that this is a tried and true Windows PC in essence, meaning that you cannot bring most of your Xbox library on the device when it launches. But it goes on to say only games that fall under the quote Xbox Play Anywhere will work as a single purchased entity across Xbox One, Series XS, and Kenan, much like the Asus ROG Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go. Xbox Cloud Gaming will also extend some of the Xbox-only games that you could potentially play on this device, but you'll be limited to whatever is an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So basically, if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, any game there you'll be able to play. Any game that has the tag Xbox Play Anywhere, you will be able to play. And again, they're going to go more into detail when this is ultimately confirmed. But let's see. Now, the pricing, folks, this is what I want to get into, because it has a section here. How much will the Asus Kenan device actually cost? And again, like Hargeet literally just said, take this section with a huge grain of salt, because global economic landscape right now is rapidly shifting thanks to what's going on in, real life of the world. It says the United States has initiated a trade war, placing tariffs on a variety of commodities that threatens to upend global supply chains, which could severely impact the price of the device, like gaming handhelds and PC parts in general. As such, according to Jez Corden, I don't think the Asus or Microsoft had placed a hard price on Kenan just yet, but I do know that the target price range, according to Jez Corden and his source, that it's going to be between $499 and $599. Now, according to the article, there are currently 2 SKUs. There are 2 SKUs. There's 2 versions of this thing, and the more expensive model, according to Jez Corden, may have more powerful chips, or may simply be a larger SSD. He is still digging for more information as the article ends. And again, it's very lengthy. Look, I'm going to say this right now. I already have a ROG Ally, and I'm in day one. And I'm buying the most expensive version. If it's $600, I'm going to buy the $600 one, just because if it's more powerful, definitely. But if it's a larger hard drive, yes, please. But there are 2 SKUs, and it's between $499 and $599. Now, is that just for one or for both? It doesn't specifically say, Hargeet, but what do you think that this thing could be priced? And more importantly, because no one has really discussed it, when do you think that this device gets released?
Yeah, as far as price, I mean, those are good, like, tentative prices.
Right.
It just depends on, again, what's in there. So 500 and 600, that doesn't seem far off from the current ROG Ally, right? So fair enough. As far as storage, that could be the differentiator. It could also just be the Z2 Extreme or the Z2 Normal, like we have now, or an equivalent set or whatever, right? So we'll see. It's probably in that range. It doesn't seem far off. I guess the question is how much battery life you get but that's going to be very similar to what you have with current boxes, right? So I don't think they're going to radically change what they already have in the market. I think it's just really, it's going to have this custom OS, and it's a partner device. If it needs any security chips or anything like that, they'll probably put that in there. So maybe it has more compatibility with some of the Xbox, peripherals, though it's running Windows. So you can basically just use whatever the heck is out there, right? Because it's Windows. So I think that's a reasonable assumption as to where it's going to be. As far as like the, when is it going to come out? I'm going to guess fall. It could be that, hey, they're ready and it's ready to go because it's really just a device they already have with some minor tweaks, right? It really is kind of like just changing a couple of button placements, and let's just put it out there. How long that takes to actually make happen, it shouldn't be too long. So if they've been partnering on this for a while, it's viable that they're ready to go. But generally speaking, they usually announce stuff, especially software, to entice other partners, and then release a little bit later, right? So even if they're ready to sort of release, they would probably have prototype devices at some sort of show, and then have a release a couple of months later, right? So I wouldn't guess that they would release right at the I'm gonna guess this is gonna get more substantial next week in GDC, right? Because
for sure.
It just seems like the right place to bring this up. Is the developer conference is exactly what you want to do, is entice your partners. And so that I'm gonna guess that there's gonna be some information coming out next week. Maybe they announce the device. That's probably how we're getting these leaks, right? That it's just ready to roll as far as the announcements. And then as far as a release, I would expect at least summer, if not probably fall, somewhere in that range. So I can't imagine them saying, hey, we're ready to just drop it now. Because I think they're going to want to do a partner, enticement, but then also do a showcase of the device and say, hey, we got a prototype. And then usually you're going to have some sort of like media type thing. Maybe you guys you usually go and see these things, right? They might have like a New York event or a LA event or something like that, where you can go and actually do some media.
Yes, please.
Recordings and stuff
Microsoft,
like that, right?
hello?
To say, yeah, like they've done it
Hello?
before with Asus ROG, right? They've done that before with the ROG, and you just come in and you get to play with it a bit, take some video, right? And then you'll have an embargo date, and you can go ahead and release it. It'd be somewhere, that would be my guess, right? And that'd probably be a month or two out if they're ready. and then it'd probably be a few months after that it comes out, right? So that's why I'm thinking summer at earliest, but realistically more like fall is probably when this comes out. That's my guess. But I mean, maybe they are ready and they just like drop it. Here you go. But I think it would be more realistic to think it's fall.
Okay, I mean that's a fair assessment. Now, obviously,
as far as the other thing that you pointed out, right, which was the games.
Yes.
Right. So we will not be able to play and we've already mentioned this, right? That you're not going to be able to play your current Xbox library. I would expect that to happen next gen. So I think you're going to wait till 2027. They're going to work through that emulation thing. They have to basically say it is an Xbox and it is not Windows, right? So it might be Windows at the core. It is, right? It already is Windows at the core, but it has to be more Xbox than Windows. And the reason is that's where their license is, right? So if they can say, you know what, this is really just an Xbox Next, right? And then even if it's partner devices, Xbox Next, then they can continue to bring the games forward. And I think that's what's going to happen. But they'll say, hey, Xbox Next also includes the ability to use the Steam store and the Epic store, and so they're going to kind of bridge that together. But that is a next gen feature that's going to come in 2027. And I think they're going to continue the partner device thing. And I think there'll be more Xbox devices from other partners that will then have the full capabilities. But we're looking at next gen. So look at 2027, 2028. You're going to start getting that kind of feature where you can get your older games. But I don't think that's going to happen for general devices. So as I was saying before, you might be able to go into your current ROG Ally and you'll have an instruction sheet of how to go make it look like an Xbox. It won't be fully there, but it'll be pretty close. I don't think you'll get your back library back onto a general PC. I think you're going to have to buy a partner device that is going to be specifically tailored to allow it to be an Xbox. So, but that's a few years out. So,
well, I mean, listen, there's a lot to unpack. There's going to be a lot to unveil. Asante, look, the when, the how much, and the where. The three of us are going to be in LA this June, right? Now, again, we keep hearing no specifics, folks, but we keep hearing, and all you got to do is go to to your favorite content creator. We've all talked about this. That the June showcase is expected to be somehow bigger and better than last June. I'm gonna be honest with you. The three of us were ass in seat, and I can't even picture it. What could they show more than we've already seen? Now I'm wondering. Okay, GDC is next week. It's Monday through Friday, right? We're gonna get a lot of big reveals, a lot of surprises. This is expected, at least in my opinion, is going to be one of those big reveals. It makes perfect sense, right? All of this information is coming out now. GDC is next week. It makes sense, right? We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. I think it's going to be there. But what if the big reveal about being able to use a significant part of your library, or all of Call of Duty going into Game Pass, or all of the Activision games somehow being available to not only be played on your Xbox at home? Oh no, this new handheld. Do you think that could possibly happen at the June event for a more specific breakdown of this device? And the price, because you bought a lot of handhelds, you have a lot, and you've spent quite a bit of money. Where do you think, in regards to pricing, this thing falls under?
So I was hoping that their ramp up would culminate in a 2026 release, but all rumor and speculation is now pointing to a 2027 release. So that is my sadness a little bit. And because of that, I now think most likely that hey, come and install it for yourself and try it out on your own device thing, that probably starts at the end of this year, right? But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not doing it, or if they're taking feedback. Please, this would be cool as hell, right? There's a lot of moving and shaking in this handheld space. A lot of moving and shaking, a lot of excitement coming from all the various handheld vendors, right? Even Steam is getting in there. And now Steam is actually offering a damn good viable option alternative to what you guys are already selling, right? So it's now more than ever important to excite the base in this way to keep them hyped for what is to come from you. So I would love exactly that, a breakdown of, hey, we plug in that, and I could do that right now. We plug in that the HDMI cable, and we show you what the UI looks like. Hey, this is what it looks like, right? Oh, it's not ready today, but this is our dream. This is what we think it will look like when it culminates, right? A lot of folks, and actually I've been working on that in the background. We'll see how much of that you eventually ends up on video, but I've been working on videos where I wanted to show people like what a lot of people hear the stuff we talk about in this way, and they don't necessarily have an actual visualization of what it actually is. So I wanted to go start doing some videos and showing people, what the game bar looks like and why it's useful and what you can do with it, stuff like that. That game bar could, in this new paradigm that we're describing here, could do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? It could be the front end UI. You boot up, you hit the button and it boots up the game bar, and you can pick your games there. You can change your settings in the background there. You can do all of your RGB stuff. In the MSI Claw, for example, which is a handheld device that MSI made running on Intel hardware, they used that game bar to control their RGBs, to control their power controls, all this, integrating it into Windows. It's not like perfect because it's still a regular Windows desktop, and then you hit the button and then the game bar shows up. But it's the closest we've ever seen to a vendor taking what Microsoft and Xbox have built and integrating it into their own thing. What we're looking for here is Microsoft's own push to make it console-fied first and desktop OS secondary, right? So I honestly think that's where the excitement is. I honestly think that's where we're going to see a lot of moving and shaking, even in the OHM space. And when I mean OHM, I mean you go download a binary and you install it yourself. Even in that space, I'm expecting to see a lot of exciting stuff. TLDR, that's literally why I'm so excited to go see like some of the June stuff that's coming up and all this. I want to see some hardware. I want to talk to some people about some software. I want to talk to people about some UI. I'm excited for that. I want to go put this in the hands of some people who may have long beards and go, see this thing? It needs to look like an Xbox. That's what I want to do.
That person with the long beard, would he be a wizard, sir? I'm just saying.
Maybe some call him that. I'm just saying.
It'd be nice to have it at FanFest, right? To have some devices
that would be
that we can see, just like we had the 3 new Xbox SKUs, right? Like at FanFest. Yeah.
It's funny.
Love to see it.
Me and King David got hands-on during the FanFest in 2019 when the cloud gaming was first being shown off. We got I got a chance to play Halo 5 just walking around with a controller and a phone. It was, obviously it's gotten much better since then. And now, the handheld market has taken over, but to have been able to get hands on that all those years before it is what it is today was pretty impressive. Maybe that happens for us in June. I freaking can't wait. But look, at the end of the day, what a way for us to have a show. 2 breaking news stories. And of course, we have almost over 700 people here watching live. A big thank you to everyone that popped in and is taking the time to check out the show. Let me just catch up on the super chats and the channel member chats, as well as some gifted subs, and we will get everyone out of here, folks. We have another gifted sub from our brother all the way from Hawaii, as he's done almost every time we do a live stream. Vestic, thank you. Aloha to you and the family. And once again, thank you for the generosity. If you did get any of the gifted memberships, please thank these people in the chat. It's the least you could do. We have a new channel member called Make It Simple, and hopefully they do make this handheld symbol for people like me who just want to plug and play. Thank you for joining the channel, brother. We super appreciate it. Our good friend LMNOPO, who's been a channel member for a whopping 35 months. He says, what if the handheld could use your Xbox SSD cartridge? I don't think you could, but that would be dope, to be honest with you. Again, that thing is...
So there were rumors that there were prototypes with compact flashes available that you could just take it from the console and click it in. rumors and speculation, people. Rumors.
Yeah,
and
okay.
speculation.
All right,
It
that's
is what
fair.
it is.
It seems a little bit much for
Yeah.
maybe sometime down the line. Who knows? We'll
In
see
the
what
future, who
happens.
knows?
But
Yeah,
definitely. Make It Simple has also gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. Salute to you, kind sir. Thank you for joining the channel as well as giving one of those subs. We super appreciate it. Mac in the chat says this. He's been a channel member for half a year. Hargeet, are you talking about the Armory Crate like the ROG Ally does now?
Yeah, so Armored Crate does quite a few updates for you, but not everything.
Yeah.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
still kind of a little clunky. It's not as seamless. Just think of if you have an Xbox, when an update happens, it's seamless. There's like a little progress bar,
Yep.
and it just reboots and you're done, right? And that's what I'm looking for. And it's still not as clean for those who have a ROG Ally.
I do,
Armored
and
Crate's
it's not as clean
kinda
at all.
cool,
Yeah.
but it's not as simple as what you get with an Xbox. So, and you still have
What's
to do one of
funny
those
about
updates yourself.
what's funny about the Ally is they have the ROG place, which is the gaming sector, has
Mhm.
updates. Then they have the ASUS section, which has the standard drivers for the hardware updates download. Then they have the section for Windows updates.
Yeah.
Three
And
places,
see-
and ASUS themselves, they all alone have 2 different download places.
And you see,
Yeah.
folks, this is what I'm talking about. Again, I just want to make it simple, like the man says in the chat. Thank you so much for
Keep
that.
it simple, stupid. That's right.
Yes. And, listen, look, we were just talking about this in the green room, how little time we actually have to play games and how our backlogs are so gross, so ridiculous. I mean, Assassin's Creed's on the way out. My life is going to stop, even with Call of Duty, when that game goes live. I'm getting down with that game. I'm going to put 300-400 hours into it. I freaking can't wait. One of the most anticipated games of the year. And those are games I personally get lost in, and I never find my way out. And it's okay, but it's why I have a backlog that's as tall as me, and I'm 6 foot. So Make It Simple drops an additional very generous $2 super chat, and he says the Xbox Cloud UI could be a good start. That I agree. I think you're onto something there. And again, I am just waiting for the day where they do have this blanketed UI, the one UI to rule them all, so to speak, for Xbox. I think that's what we're all hoping and waiting for. I don't necessarily know if that is held out all the way until, like Hargeet was suggesting, 2027, when, again, we all thought it was 2026, and now it's basically Jez Corden has pretty much said that both consoles are going to be in 2027. I don't want to have to wait that long, but I do think there's going to be, updates that do get us to what we want from now, from this ROG Ally Xbox release until the official Xbox release. It's going to be a very interesting ride nonetheless. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. Let's get everyone out of here. Of course, tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Will the Insider, Broke Boy Lewis, is going to be joining me and C Money. We're going to be talking about the Oblivion story that has a lot of deets that you do not want to miss. And look, I'm going to say this. If you just look at what they did with Ninja Gaiden 2 Black and how they changed that game, they made it so modern looking and so amazing. I cannot wait to see if that is what Bethesda's been able to do using Unreal Engine 5 with Oblivion, one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Like, I was one of the people that the minute the horse armor became available, I dropped my $5 and I wasn't ashamed to tell anyone about it. That's right. I am. That's right. I also bought all 4 Ninja Turtle skins in Call of Duty. Throw the virtual tomatoes. It's fine. But Hargeet Chani, let's get you on out of here. Let's tell everyone where not only could they subscribe to your YouTube channel, which I cannot wait to see if you can break your own record of 86,000 views for the Gears of War E-Day reveal this June with whatever they're going to show. Where could they subscribe to that YouTube channel? More importantly, support you by buying your book. Of course, it's called Emergence. He wrote a novel last year. If you like Mass Effect, you're going to like this book. Brother, sell the brand. And this is the important one, folks. Tell everyone where you can't be found on social media.
Right? Yeah, so you can find me on Discord, though, H. Johnny. But yeah, if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, it's Hargy Johnny One. And yeah, you want to pick up my book, shop.johnny.us. It'll point you over to the Barnes and Nobles and Amazons and all that, so you can pick it up. And then yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be doing Friday or Thursday. I don't know. I'll have to talk to C Money. I know they had some stuff going on as far as the next show. So it might be tomorrow, it might be Friday. It's usually Friday at 8 p.m. US Eastern time for night shift, but it might be tomorrow night. And then back with Fonz on Saturday. Check that out, 6 p.m. US Eastern time at Fonz Gaming, and then with WebDave, 7 p.m. US Eastern time at WebDave's channel. And we'll be back here next week. And next week will be fun. We have GDC, right? So we'll see what happens. So we'll see what kind of announcements we get.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm expecting a lot of like super big announcements, but I'm also expecting some small ones. Again, I don't know what they're going to bring to the table. I was hoping that we could maybe get what the Elite 3 was going to look like, but that has already been all kind of debunked also by Jez, where he says that the new controllers will be coming out in 2027. So I would imagine that the new console,
which kind of makes sense, right? With the new controller,
it does make sense,
together,
right? If you're going to release a new console in a couple of years, you hold off and you finalize what the Elite 3 is going to look like. You know,
I'm not getting the discussion for the Oblivion thing, but one thing that is kind of annoying to me is that, well, I think it's good. It's that they're doing a conversion from Creation Engine to Unreal Engine 5, but we'll see how that works, which is going to be an interesting test. But Morrowind is such a more important one to get because it plays so badly. I think they've modernized that.
A lot of people in the chat actually made mention of that they
I played a bit of
first.
Morrowind, and I'm like, dude, it doesn't even have a journal. I don't even remember. I remember like picking this up for somebody. Where do I go to? It needs modernization. So I would love them to redo that, bring it up to speed to current levels, right? To current generations. That would be an awesome one. So hopefully this works. Hopefully people pick it up. Hopefully people play this. And if it does work, then hopefully we'll get Morrowind.
Maybe they go in reverse order, but I wasn't a Morrowind fan. I played it. I was like, it's old. It's old.
That's the problem. It needs modernization, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly it's a better game. It's really good, but it's like, yeah, it's just like you have to track everything yourself. And I'm like, dude, come on. Like,
that's when you had to break out the pen and paper and the pad next to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, come on.
D&D. I mean, my God, it's too much, especially in these days. But Kay Asante, I would imagine that you're going to be doing a show this Saturday with the kneeless one. Now, I don't know if his knees came back, they didn't, but let's talk about the Gaming Circle podcast, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday morning with you and, of course, Everborn Saga. And sometimes guests. Where can they tune into that? Subscribe to your YouTube channel, and more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, of course, we always appreciate all the great people that jump on here and converse with us and join the chat, and always great to use this as my treasured hump day. So for GCP this week, I think we're just gonna do a roundup because we've been having we had some AI talk, we had some other kind of chats out there. We've kind of left the conversation to others. I think this week we'll kind of regroup on what's going on in gaming in general, because we're preparing for some interesting stuff that's going on. You know, Xbox fans, stay tuned. We have some possible interviews. We'll probably be doing some fun stuff that I am super excited to talk about. But we'll do that soon. But yeah, check us out. GCP, the Gaming Circle podcast, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We try and keep it concise. Works better sometimes than others. I was able to do so last week, 2 hours. Most of the time it's like 3.5. We'll see how we do. But yes, appreciate y'all coming to view. Thank you.
Well, appreciate you gentlemen being a part of this. A big thank you to all, well over 700 people that joined us today, both through Twitch. We had one person, which is always awesome. Thank you, Twitch, the Twitch user. Appreciate that. X or Twitter, and of course YouTube. A big thank you to all of the super chats and channel member chats and the gifted memberships that continue to come in to power the channel and allow for us, Mrs. Boom and I, to give away lots of big prizes. And again, usually we have them, we save up all year, and at the end of the year we have 3 or 4 really big ones, and that's exactly what we're going to wind up doing this year. But that's going to do it for us this evening. Hopefully you enjoyed the talk and the conversation. To hit the like button if you did. We super appreciate it. If you're feeling super generous, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and share this out on the socials. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, it would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.